Hey everyone, welcome to the Motivators Podcast. It's Emaley
And Brian.
here to get started today with our guest, Mellanie Page from ABS Kids and the ABA Collective. I got to meet Mellanie. I was part of her ABA Reimagine conference that was back a few months ago. And if you didn't have a chance to attend that conference, it's still on Behavior Live. And it had so many interesting topics. But before I go into that, Mellanie, welcome, and glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, Mellanie. So we just wanted to get to know you a little bit here and all the great work you're doing. I see you buzzing around conferences and speaking and keynote speaker at many conferences, and just wanted to kind of get to know a little bit more of your background.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in. I actually was just online and looking at your guys' big announcement too. I don't know if you've had some buzz about, a big change.
Yeah, it's been a really busy week, especially with Brian and the marketing team. But the product and the product team, we've been ramping up for this for a long time. But yes, we had an announcement this week that we have released a practice management system with Motivity. So all of everyone that knows that we've put so much heart and care into our clinical side of Motivity, now we've done the same thing and have released product management. So we're officially an all-in-one.
So exciting. Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's been a busy week.
Yeah. And we're just getting started, right? It's so much.
What are some of the big changes that are coming now with this partnership or merge? What would you call it?
We're in it. We are the all-in-one now. So
nice.
So what's coming is that what we were doing, what Motivity was for the past 4 years, is now on a list of things that we do just as well. So we're taking the Motivity support that everyone loves and applying it to practice management, as well as our clinical, as well as all the tools that you can expect from like an enterprise level practice management system. So yeah, it's a big step for us. It's a big move, and we've been waiting. Like we've been waiting to pull the trigger for so long. And it's like a big
super fans too. So I bet
it's like
really excited to have that option.
Yeah, it's like this has been in the works for so long, and I think everyone on the team is just so happy to finally have the trigger pulled and like really go all in and talk to people about it, right? Like we couldn't say anything for the longest time. So yeah, it's really exciting time.
Big secret to keep. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So now back to you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah. I'm excited to be here. Again, I'm from ABS Kids and the ABA Collective. The ABA Collective is an educational platform focused on free monthly CEUs. And we also have 2 core programs, OBM practitioner and digital clinician. So really the mission, and Emaley alluded to it when she talked about my recent conference, is how can BCBAs start expanding their skill set, start learning more about different opportunities, because behavior is everywhere and there are options. And so I think there are just so many paths that BCBAs can take, but not a lot of clarity on how to get there. And so I'm hoping to seed some motivation and also help people generalize those skills to new areas, business, online business, whatever they choose.
Wow, that's really cool. How many CEUs do you do a month? Like how much content are you putting in?
Yeah, I do the one free monthly, and then I have like several kind of banked up that are a combination of topics. Just I found myself wanting specific topics and them not being super readily available. So I just created them. I've got some on the Office episodes and using those clips for demonstrating like lessons learned as supervisors. It's entertaining for me. So hopefully it is for other people. But yeah, that's the goal, is just to provide actionable, engaging, and unique CEUs. And that's kind of our tagline there at the ABA Collective.
Love it, especially The Office. I'm a huge fan, and I've watch The Office from the lens of these are really good non-examples.
Exactly. Exactly.
How?
Well, that's like my first CEU. If you go back and watch it, I have like the objectives and then the risks. And I was like, the risk might be that you're here because it's free and you don't understand sarcasm and you're going to leave and do some really unethical things, because these are all non-examples, just to be clear. So yeah, I had to make that announcement or disclaimer up front. So it's funny.
That's so
That's
cool.
awesome.
What an interesting take on it. Yeah. Have you seen that that's resonated really well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think people are generally conditioned to think that learning has to be a little bit bland and technical. And so, kind of my vision for it is that people just have fun, or at least feel like they're participating in the learning versus just being
Mm-hmm.
taught, right? And so, I learn just as much. I try to make them collaborative. So, people are answering questions, and then I'll like download the transcription and just kind of learn from all of their comments and thoughts. And so it's been really fun to just take a different approach, I think, to CEUs and see more and more people do the same. I think, Emaley's example, her presentation at the conference was fantastic. So another great example of showing people something new and like teaching something different and unique that really excites people. I think our industry's in a little bit of a rut too. So it's just nice to expose people to more.
Yeah, invigorate them again, get them excited.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
would love to hear a little bit more about your story of how you started in the field and then how you pivoted and transitioned into your role in business management and OBM.
Sure. Yeah. So a little bit of a stumble, right? I spent a lot of time doing research and self-studying like as much as I could. And then I realized I should probably go get an MBA, which was a huge mistake. If anyone's an MBA, sorry. But I personally wanted to be an entrepreneur and I confused the two. And I actually wrote a blog post recently about it. But OBM was kind of that nice blended path where I could leverage my clinical skill set and still like exercise some of that entrepreneurial creativity. And so I started approaching some businesses. Some businesses were, exposed to what I was doing and helped in different ways. And so got a portfolio of those results and started working with just different industries, getting exposed to new opportunities. And once I had enough of that practice, I recognized kind of a framework that I was using to design projects, using my behavior analytics skill set. And so that's where OBM practitioner was born, where I want to teach BCBAs the same for two reasons. Like, one, go out and try to do another career if that's what would make you happy, or like try to change your workplace from within. And I could see them like leveraging that skill set either way, right? In a really positive way. So I've tried to really simplify all of the concepts and make it really strategic, and each module kind of builds on the next. But that's how my experience evolved, was all these consulting opportunities had like a similar undertone, even though they were across industries, and the science was like the foundation of that. And I think people just needed the structure to then apply it somewhere new. And yeah. And so I'm like thrilled to see people starting to use it in their own practices and starting to identify and see opportunities to make it better and feel more equipped to contribute and like take a different perspective to solve that problem.
So for BCBAs that are, and I know you consult and work with a lot of BCBAs in this area, but for those that are listening to this podcast and really interested in learning more about OBM, what are some places or what are some things that you would recommend that they do, or where would they start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of great people out there offering kind of a taste or a flavor of OBM. There's different specialties within it, right? Performance management, workplace culture, safety, just a variety of different areas. And so I would start dabbling a little bit in just the accessible information just to see what like captures your interest. And then once you know more, think about what you want to do with that information. Because I think a lot of people seek the information because it seems like a desirable alternative to what they're doing today, but don't have a ton of clarity about what they actually want to do with it. And so some people will even approach me about my program, and they're more interested in like the research and like diving into the terms and concepts. And I think that's fantastic. That's not what I teach, right? And so if I instead get a BCBA who's early and like wants to like apply the science and actually do some projects and get their hands dirty, like that's my key customer. And so I'm just really trying to expose people that way, but I'll send them to, I mean, there's degrees, certificates, other people are offering different things. I think it starts with like being clear on what you want to do in OBM to really understand what is the best fit for you. And I'm always happy to refer people. Got like a little book club on my website and things too, where people can start just at least understanding it more. I think it's a little bit of a mysterious like subspecialty that people don't like fully get. So, and it's more accessible, I think, than people think or that they've been exposed to. So I'm hoping to kind of demystify that too.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic that you hear, like that term OBM get thrown around quite a bit. Who do you find as like your target audience? Like who's showing up for these types of things? Is it entrepreneurs? Is it BCBAs that are working at a bigger kind of enterprise that are trying to make some changes? Or
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I was just looking at some of that data just recently. So we get a lot of people working from within. They're in leadership positions. They just want to make the organization better. They recognize intellectually that the science is not being expanded or generalized to the business, right? But they're not, it's kind of like parenting. Like my kids are a hot mess, right? So I'm not using behavior analysis with my own kids. It's kind of people like that are in the business and they're like, ooh, I see an opportunity where we could be using this science to make everything better, and we're not. And then I do have like a subset of people that have already kind of ventured off, but they're not leveraging the science anymore. They've just kind of pivoted completely. And they're like, ooh, I'd love to now get back into my roots and figure out how to strategically apply what I know to this new like venture. And so we've had kind of a fun combination. And some entrepreneurs, some owners, some people who are just, curious and want to make their organizations the best they can. So they're coming directly and learning the material, which is cool.
Yeah. Are you getting direct feedback from them as well? Like to how it's going? Like,
So that was actually the first like 2 cohorts of the program were beta test. And so they were my guinea pigs where they worked through all of the tech. And there were some things where sometimes I think we either underestimate or overestimate what we know. And so we either share too little or too much. And so they really helped me kind of refine that. Like, hey, you may have skipped a foundational piece here that helps me understand like the next module, or like, we get it, stop talking about this other thing. And so that's been super helpful. I've already changed and kind of shaped the program based on that feedback. So it's like very feedback rich. Every week they send me a survey with some of their pros, cons, suggestions. I've added some research articles and things that people have requested. So it's been really fun to have that feedback loop.
Yeah.
What are some of the outcomes of this program that you're seeing or that you're focusing on that make you really excited?
Yeah, I would say like the one that I think is the coolest, which I think is like a widespread problem, is we've had the most people focus their projects on staff retention. And so they've all taken different approaches because of course, like when you're analyzing the system, they all start discovering, ooh, for my organization, we need to like increase feedback, right? Or for my organization, we need to increase like scheduling flexibility. It could be a variety of reasons that they discover through this strategic process we're working on together, but they're all targeting that same problem. And we're not far enough along to see like what the measurable results look like, but I'm very like satisfied with how they're thinking through it, right? They're looking at the data, they're having interviews, they're understanding the problem is beyond just like a one quick fix or a Band-Aid, and they're really creating interventions or improvement plans that address like the whole system, which I think is where we often miss. We just kind of throw things at the wall with like great intentions, but more money, more benefits, more this or that, and it doesn't solve the actual problem. So I think it's been cool to see like this big problem that is honestly, I think, a problem everywhere in our field today, like being addressed by people at different levels and being thought about through a variety of perspectives. So that's probably been like one of the cooler things to see, just because it is such a big issue. But yeah, a lot of different creative problems too. We've got like coffee shop interventions. We've got just a bunch of different things going on, which I think is fun.
I'm curious, are there any of them focused on like technology adoption? Do you get any of those?
So we have like a full module on change management. And so it's been part of the conversation. It's been sprinkled in because I don't know, I'm sure you all experience it quite a bit, where even just like a migration from one platform to another might be a huge like change barrier, not necessarily because it's difficult, like technically difficult, but because you're familiar and you're comfortable and it's what you know, and now you've got to shift to something that you don't know anymore. And so do you all experience that? I'm sure you do, but
yeah. And I think what you said is so right, is people over like exaggerate in their minds how difficult it is. I'm not saying it's not difficult, but I think it's like because of the unknown aspect and the comfort with familiarity, the change of switching systems becomes way bigger than it really is. I mean, almost 100% of the time after the change happens and they're like back on track with, day-to-day business as usual, they're like, oh, that was not as hard as I thought.
Yeah, it's always like retroactively, right? You're like, yeah, if you had known that earlier, we probably could have through this a little bit smoother. But it's like it's human nature. And like one of the books that we recommend in the program is Switch by the Heath brothers. I don't know if either of you have read it, but it's a really neat one where it talks about, it's kind of an analogy or story, but you have a rider who is directing an elephant that represents like all of our emotions and like all of the big changes, like just the big direction shift we have to make. And then also how we shape the path, which is like very behavioral, which is why I really enjoy the book, because it's not just the rider and it's not just like addressing the emotions, it's also creating the environment for change. And so we talk a lot about that in that final module, because it's exactly what you're referencing. People just have the idea. They even have the data now to say like, this will help us. It may not fix the problem completely, but it will make us better. And there's still resistance. And it's just one of those things, whether it's systems or tech or anything, like we're now going to eat lunch at 11 instead of 11:30. It's a change that people like have a hard time with.
Yeah. We found a lot. I guess we're seeing consistently a lot. One of our tactics in our marketing is to speak to the end user, a lot of times the techs, and to try to get them sold before we sell everybody else. Because then that adoption is way easier if the end user is like, yes, please, we really want to be a part of this, than having to go and try to convince your whole team that this is going to be a good idea, right? Like there's no battle there. Everyone's on the same side. So like that's one of our things that we really try to do, is to speak to the tech and try to get them to not just like us from a brand standpoint, right? But to understand the benefits of like seeing something cool that can make your job a lot easier. You just need to convince your boss to do it now.
Totally.
Right? It's like, and it's a totally different process than the boss coming to you and saying, we're going to start using this now. Go learn it. 100%.
Right? Yeah. We talk about, I think that's really like a cool way to message, because we talk about how do you find like your champions and influencers that are not your high level team, right? Like these are people that tend to have influence. They're the ones that say, I like the t-shirt. Okay, everyone likes the t-shirt now. Or I like the policy change. I like the policy change too, right? It's a little mean girls.
Regina George.
Yes, exactly. It is. I mean, like find Regina George and like you are solid. So it's like it's funny, but it's true. Like that's just how change works. And as humans, we need a little bit of that encouragement and motivation to like move to action sometimes. So
do you find that it's like, because you're dealing with BCBAs and behavior professionals, let's say across the board, do you find that there's like a light bulb that goes off that goes, of course I should have been doing it this way. This is what I do all day. Right. But they just didn't apply it to something else.
Yeah. Before we've even like dived into content, we're already starting conversations. The first meeting we have is about business opportunities. And even as people start to think about, well, what are these opportunities? You already see them start to understand, well, this is happening because our policy actually counters this like outcome, or this leader is kind of against this problem. We just had this conversation in the cohort this week. We've got like a top leader not engaged or not excited about solving this opportunity. So we're already recognizing like we're going to have to think outside of just the performer behavior. And so it is, yeah, it's kind of fascinating. And I love to see like those little aha moments because you see people, yeah, connecting the science. And honestly, like I'll tell them all the time, like you all are doing a lot of the
Right.
things that you would categorize as OBM. You've just kind of been conditioned to think it's a lot less accessible and a lot less within your scope than it is, right? And so it has been neat to open people's eyes to that for sure.
Now, I've been seeing some information coming out on an upcoming event that you're planning. I'd love to hear more about that. It's the Business of Behavior Conference.
Yeah, Business of ABA. Yeah, it is in September, and we are really excited. This is our second year, and we took a lot of feedback from the first year, and people want to know, and I'm sure you experienced this too, so I'd love your perspective. How do I balance this rapid growth that I know I need to like continue chasing while also like balancing quality? And I'm sure like on the system side, that probably comes up quite a bit. Does it?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like the number one thing that we hear from growing businesses. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's been now the shift. Like we've changed the tracks to be more focused on, it's still leadership, still operations, but we've moved toward some deep learning too. So we've got like 2 free workshops that focus on systems and developing like the 6 systems that make your business work as you grow, and a lot of future focused conversations. How do I track quality? How do I make sure that I'm maintaining it as I grow? And then like, how do I market to continue to grow? So it's a really good balance, I think, of helping give some actionable strategies for people to continue to grow their business, but to also give them the techniques to manage the quality at the same time. So I'm excited. There's a lot of great speakers, marketing, operations, quality. It's really fun, and it's for all business sizes. We're working on Google Workspace. We're working on other platforms. We've got great like partners. And so it's going to be great, I think.
Yeah, I think there's definitely this myth out in the field that I kind of get this sense that practitioners and business owners believe in this false dichotomy that if you're growing into a big business, then you're losing
You have
quality.
to be low quality. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think they also feel the same way with tech. And I understand there's some like scar tissue there, right? So you see these small ABA businesses or small tech companies doing like really great, innovative, high quality, high service work, and then they grow, and that does sometimes get lost. I mean, like even at Motivity, we're starting to hear from our customers, they're like, "You just got a big investment. Does that mean you're gonna change?"
Right.
And
Yes.
because
It's so interesting. I like how you called it a false dichotomy, because I think that's exactly what it is, right? There's an idea that because what has been the noisiest, say like in the media or just what we've been exposed to, has been the 1 out of 100 stories of the company that took the capital and made some bad decisions, or didn't focus on quality and focused it all on growing without balancing, right, those priorities. And it's unfortunate, I think, sometimes to like label it that way, because there are great companies like you all who are investing back into the consumer and making sure that their experience is enhanced while you're also, able to maintain the business and continue to grow it. And so, yeah, that's why that conference, I think, kind of speaks to that as one of the core topics, because we're trying to combat that idea that you can only be one or the other. And I also think, the flip side of it is there are a lot of clinicians who, with great intent, open businesses, but need to also understand how to keep their doors open too by learning some of these skills and investing in some of these systems, right? And so that's been kind of a conversation starter in these conferences as well, is how do we help you be successful?
Right. Yeah, I think that's so important. We see that a lot, and we got some feedback almost instantly from the field, just in the same vein as what Emaley was saying. And you know, tech companies like us, we're running a business too, you know, and to keep up with the current technology that you're receiving as a product costs money, even, right? But we think that we can do it in a way different than how everyone else has done it with capital, and the fact that we get capital should mean that the end user gets a better product.
Sure.
Like, end of story, right? And if that's not the case, then something's terribly wrong on the product side, right? On what you're delivering as a product, you know?
Well, and I think there's a pivot point too, right? Where at first the fear or concerns or like negative feelings are about strictly just having more capital. But then at some point that I think that pivots to, well, now all these other businesses are offering AI solutions or advanced technology and you are behind. So why is that? And so there's a point where that like negativity turns and the expectation is to receive results, right? And so I think like trying to move past the noise is really important. And then like developing the skills and understanding the consumer to know like where to go next, I think is critical.
Yeah. Our goal is just to be clear and transparent, you know? We don't really know any other way. Emaley and I have done this since like day one, you know? It's just like, let's just tell them what's really happening. Like, that's way easier than trying to like figure out what's going to make everybody happy, right? And it's just like, that was kind of our idea from the beginning, is like, this market needs like, they need to see who's behind the company. Like, they need to see a face, right? They don't want to work with a corporation. This market is very unique in the way that, like, you know, Emaley and you've seen each other for years. You've talked a little bit here and there, and the same thing with 100 other people, right, in this market. And everybody kind of knows each other. There should be a company that kind of is the same way, you know?
I love that.
So yeah, we're just trying to be like open and honest with everything that's happening with us. And if people have questions, we'll address them and keep moving on and make
it's
sure
that
everyone's
same
happy.
idea of change management, right? Like I think when someone knows, likes, trusts you, that change just comes more easily too. So I feel confident that, you know, you all have the super fans and people that trust that what you'll do next is going to make it even bigger and better. So I think that's great.
Well, Mellanie, as we're wrapping up, one of the things I want to ask you is, like, you're clearly a very creative person. You're a public speaker. You've created all these solutions. You're working full time at ABS as a clinician or operations, and then also creating the ABA Collective. What is it that fuels your creativity?
Yeah, I actually was just talking about this with a colleague earlier who is in the space as well. She's a BCBA, and she was like, "How do you do that with 3 kids and just like so much?" And I told her, like, there are times where I literally cannot go to bed because I'm just like so excited about an idea, and I feel like the way we think about burnout is so like vanilla, like it's just like one-sided. It's we need to do less, we need to work less, we need to just like chill. And for me, I just have like a different perspective where if you find work that you really enjoy, then you can achieve work-life harmony, and like the energy just comes like it's created. I don't know how to explain it. Like, and I tried this morning too, and I just have a hard time explaining, but I can stay up at night thinking about all the different things that BCBAs can now access because we're putting out this information, we're giving them new pathways. It's just an energizing experience. And so it's different, I think, than how people traditionally think about burnout. I think find something that like reinvigorates you, and that can combat burnout just as much as working less or, you know, working less hard or whatever the standard like prescription is for it. So yeah, I guess that's my
Yeah.
my answer.
Yeah, for me,
That's
a
great.
lot of the burnout feeling comes from like obviously an overwhelming amount of things. But once, for me anyway, the way I get clarity and get the energy to do exactly like what you're saying, like I don't want to go to sleep, I want to keep doing this thing. That's when I sort all of that messiness in my head into a plan of action, and all I need
Mm,
to do is execute on that plan. Then it's very
exactly.
clear of like, okay, I'm going to go do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. But when it's like I have all these things to do and you don't know how to prioritize those things, it becomes a little bit overwhelming. But when you can sit down and kind of sort them all out and organize them and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and when I'm done with that, I'm going to do this. To me, that's
Hmm.
where I'm like, okay, now let's go. You know?
Yeah, I think like narrow, right? But like all in, and that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
been how I've approached like the OBM side, but also this online business opportunity I've started. Like to me, it's thinking about all of the times that these BCBAs are now achieving results or like contacting success and reinforcement. I'm like reliving it again for myself. Like, oh, I know what it felt like that first time I sold something online or I worked with a new business. And it's like I get to experience that over and over. And people think that your impact is limited if you do something different in a helping profession, which is why I loved Emaley's talk, right? It's like I moved to tech and now I have this like new way to impact the same population, the same people. And she's an example now for other people to do the same, right? And so that's kind of been part of my fuel is the same way we get excited every time a new client like learns something new. That can apply to really anything you transfer your behavior analytics skill set to. So anyway, that's been, yeah, I think the fuel that keeps me going.
All right. So what I want to do now as we wrap up, I want to just do a couple of rapid fire questions just for fun. So first, I'm going to start with one that's a little more on topic, and that's if you could recommend one book to someone who's really interested in OBM and pivoting to OBM or incorporating more OBM in their practice. What book would that be?
Yeah, I think that one that I really enjoy that's a little older is by Leslie Braxick. It's called Unlock Behavior, Unleash Profits. And on the abacollective.com, I actually have a little book club that includes some of my other favorites that I've read and enjoyed. But I use some excerpts and things like that from that book in my program because it's really like a nice intro to some of the concepts and ways to transfer that skill set to business.
All right. All right. And then more general, what is your favorite book or what's a book that you're reading right now that you really like?
Yeah, so I'm actually reading a couple of marketing books, but my favorite book that's a little bit cliche, I guess, is Atomic Habits. I just think that it's been pretty transformative. I've developed habits using, again, like the science that we know and ignore when it's like what's best for us. It kind of reinvigorated me to think about how can I structure my day differently? How can I, habit pair and do things like that? And so anyway, that's been a good option that I recommend if you haven't read it to read it for sure.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good one.
And yeah, I have not read that. I should read that.
Hmm.
What is a TV series you would recommend for people that are looking for a new binge-worthy TV series?
Yeah, I watch kids TV shows and and I watch The Office over and over. I don't know if everyone else that has kids experiences this, but I have ADHD, so if my kids are making noise, like I can't quite focus on a show, and so I kind of rewatch things that I already know the plot, so I'm not like overstimulated when I
Oh, I
can't
do the
like
same thing
track
all the time. Yeah.
what's happening.
Mm.
Yeah, so The Office is on my list. I like Parks and Rec, but in terms of new shows, like you can name one and I probably would have no idea what you're talking what you're talking about. So probably not the best recommender for that for sure.
Office is a good one if you haven't watched that.
Yeah.
And then last question. Oh, did you want to say something, Brian?
No, no, no. Go ahead.
All right, last question of the day. What's one fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Yeah, I this is a hard one to think about sometimes. I don't know that I have too many fun, interesting things that I don't share a lot, but I'm Cuban and my favorite artist is Pitbull. And so people don't normally expect me to be listening to Pitbull on the regular, but it just makes me feel like I'm back in Miami and just living my best life. So we'll see what happens.
That's great.
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
All right, Mellanie, thank you so much for
Thanks so much
being a
for
guest
having
on our
me.
podcast.
Yeah, congrats again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So excited for you both. Yeah. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.